Be sincere, be reflective, and be calm in your interviews, and link all your answers back to the patient. Those are the fundamentals to help you smash your interview. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Aspiring Medics. What are the most common interview mistakes and how can you avoid them? I'm Katie, I'm a fourth year medical student and I'm one of the presenters here at the Aspiring Medics. And today, due to popular demand, we're going through what are the most common interview mistakes and how you can best avoid them to ensure that all your preparation pays off on the final day of your interview. Let's get started. Mistake number 1, memorizing answers. It's really important to bear this in mind because a lot of students want to feel as well prepared as possible, and a caveat to that is that they start writing the perfect answers and trying to rehearse that and learn it word for word. However, when it comes to the real interview, it can come across as overly rehearsed, you can sound robotic, and the real passion for medicine is lost and doesn't really shine through. So it's really important to have a good structure for your answers, but not necessarily memorizing things word for word. So ways that you can fix this and ensure you're not memorizing answers is, again, having mnemonics and ways that you can create a structure for answering different types of question. For example, STAR, so situation, task, action, and reflection, can be really important when you're trying to reflect on your personal statement or your motivation for medicine and personal experiences. Whereas BNAJ, which is beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, and justice, can be a really important structure when you're dealing with ethical-based scenarios in your interview. It's really important to think aloud and try and practice aloud so you can get a feel for the sound of your own voice and hear how you might be coming across in an interview as well. This can help you refine the language that you're using and allow you to think on your feet when the interview time actually comes. So interviewers are looking for you to be adaptable and flexible, which are skills of a future doctor, and not just rehearsing an answer that you've memorized. Mistake number 2 is describing and not reflecting. Sometimes in interviews, students can often feel drawn to describing what they did, so they're volunteering, their experiences, their shadowing opportunities. However, they don't reflect on it appropriately for the interviewers to get a good insight into why that might make you a better doctor or why they should choose you to be a future medical student. So I think when I was conducting my mock interviews, I reflected on my own GP experience by saying when I was in general practice, I noticed that they had good communication with the patient, which really reinforced my love of medicine. However, reflecting on that, I realised it's actually quite surface level, and it's much better to use a structured framework to try and ensure that you're getting the most out of the experiences and be able to have that reflection, which demonstrates maturity and insight, which is what the interviewers want to see. So a way to fix that would have been saying, oh, in my GP experiences, or like shadowing a general practitioner, I noticed that they used like a good non-verbal body language that was very open. I noticed that they used like very good communication skills, and they came across as very trustworthy, which allowed the patient to open up more about their experience, which allowed the GP to then formulate a much better diagnosis that considered the holistic approach for the whole patient and allowed them to build that rapport with the patient. That's a much better answer because you're considering the impact that the communication is having on the consultation and therefore on patient outcomes. So being able to reflect on your answer and not just describe what you did is a very crucial part of the interview to demonstrate your maturity and your insight. So definitely the second mistake, don't forget your reflection because it's really important. Mistake number 3 is all about not practicing your answers aloud before the interview. This one might sound simple, but it's actually really important to bear in mind. A lot of students like to review the notes and practice how they can structure the different answers. However, if you're not actually practicing your delivery or speaking aloud your answers, then you might not be able to get the delivery that you need when it actually comes to the interview date. I remember in my own personal experience with my mock MMI interviews, I spent a lot of time trying to understand the structure of the data interpretation stations for the MMI. However, when it actually came to the mock, I found it difficult to express my thoughts clearly and coherently, and I noticed that I was speaking too fast and getting a bit more flustered. In hindsight, it's really important to have that practice before going into your mock interviews, but ultimately it was a mock, so I was able to adapt my techniques and strategy before the final interview. So it's really important to practice consistently with friends and family, ensuring that you're able to deliver good answers and manage to practice aloud. And also recording yourself can be a game changer. It allows you to watch it back and analyze your own tone, your clarity, and the word choice that you're using in order to come across as your best self and like the best version of yourself that you want to come across in your interview. Another thing that we'd recommend is that at Aspiring Medics we have an AI tutor for interviews, and this can actually listen to your interview delivery and give you feedback on your delivery, your tone and your clarity, and some insight into improvements. So this is actually like having an interviewer on call available 24/7. So it's definitely something that we'd recommend if you'd want some more practice. Mistake number 4, not linking back to medicine. So this one's really important because medicine and patients are at the core of all of the interview platform. However, it can be difficult when you're getting caught up in reflecting on your own volunteering experiences or your own extracurricular activities that you fail to relate that back to why it matters in your medical interview. In my medical interview, it was important for me to reflect on the fact that I was debating president, and I talked about how those skills were important for leadership and organisation. That's a good answer because it shows that those skills are important. However, it's weaker because it doesn't relate back to why those skills would be important for medical school and then life as a future doctor. So a much stronger answer, and an answer that could differentiate the good candidates from the great candidates in an interview, would be to talk about how being a debating president and developing those skills of leadership are important because I understand that leadership in medicine involves guiding a team to improve outcomes for patients and ensuring that people are getting the best healthcare that they can get. So having those thoughts and reflections about how you can link your own experiences back to medicine and how patients are at the core of medicine and you should be talking about patients in your answers as well, that can help to separate a good candidate from a great candidate. So that is definitely a way that you can fix it, is always remembering how your own experiences links back to patient care and your future life as a doctor. Mistake number 5, not thinking enough about ethics and ethical frameworks. So a lot of students focus on how to answer the motivation-based questions or teamwork and communication, but that can lead to neglect of the more ethical-based scenarios which can definitely come up in your MMI interviews. In my own mock MMI interview question, I was really thrown off when I was given a question about organ donation. I felt a bit confused about how to answer that. So it's really important to put in a lot of preparation behind these ethical situations and understand how you could use a structure to answer those types of questions. One ethical structure framework in mind is the BANJ, which is beneficence, autonomy, non-maleficence and justice, which are Beauchamp and Childress' 4 pillars of medical ethics. This can really allow you to weigh up different factors and come to a sound ethical-based decision in your MMI interviews, which can help you to sound informed and well-balanced when making decisions about patient care. It's also really important to regularly review NHS hot topics, things that are coming out in the news which are relevant to the NHS, because those can also come up in your interviews, and being able to reflect on those appropriately can make you sound like a balanced, mature and well-rounded applicant and help you to ace your interview question. Mistake number 6, freezing when you get stuck. Every student blanks at some point. I did when I was confronted with an interview question about healthcare funding, but it's really important to be able to step back, reflect on everything, calm yourself down, and able to handle the question in a coherent and clear manner. So one fix for this, instead of freezing, would be to have a sentence ready when you're feeling a bit more overwhelmed. For example, wow, that's a really interesting question. Do you mind if I take a couple of moments to reflect on that before answering? This kind of approach can demonstrate to the interviewer that you're mature and you're adaptable because you're able to think on your feet, have something prepared and be able to reflect on that question a bit more before answering. And then when you do answer, it can be helpful to break it down into different areas of your answer that you can focus on. For example, when you're talking to the interviewer, you could say, there are several factors that are important in my answer. First, I want to talk a bit more about the ethical side of the question, then talk about the practicalities before moving on to the patient-centered focus of the question. That can demonstrate to the interviewer that you're balanced, well-rounded, and you've got a good systematic approach when dealing with answering questions, which can demonstrate to them that you are the perfect candidate as a future doctor, as you often need skills of adaptability, flexibility, and control under pressure. Mistake number 7, talking too fast or too slow. So pacing can be a real issue in interviews, particularly when you're nervous. You can end up speaking at lightning speed. I remember in my own personal experience in my mock MMI interview, I noticed that in a 2-minute answer, I answered it in 30 seconds flat. So it was definitely something to reflect on before the final interview day. So in order to fix this, a good thing would be to start recording yourself and playing it back. You can analyse your own tone, you can analyse how fast you're talking, and if you're feel that you're talking too fast, then it's important to be more conscious of the speed when you're actually in the interview setting or when you're actually doing mocks and you're more engaged of the pace that you're speaking at. It's also really important to reflect on your own body language as well, and if you're coming across as too disengaged or if you're leaning forward too much. So being able to record yourself is also quite useful for analysing those factors as well. Being able to practice with friends and family is very useful because they can give you real-time feedback as to whether they think that you're speaking too fast or too slow. And being consciously aware that nerves tend to increase your talking speed, and being able to deliberately slow down, take more pauses when flicking between different ideas, can be really insightful and a good way of thinking when you're actually confronted with your interview, and you can feel more conscious in your mind to try and slow down. Mistake number 8, trying to be the perfect candidate. I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive because you want to come across as the most sophisticated candidate that you can be in an interview setting. However, it's really important to bear in mind that interviewers are looking for genuine passion for medicine. They're not looking for ultra robotic, perfect candidates. So it's really important to let those genuine experiences that you've had shine through. I remember when I was in my mock interview setting, I wanted more of those ultra-structured answers that helped me come across as the perfect candidate. But I soon realised that that's not what medicine is fundamentally. It's about being professional, yes. However, it's about letting your individual likes, preferences and experiences shine through, because that is ultimately what's going to make you a compassionate and patient-centred doctor. So a quick fix to ensure that you're coming across as the most genuine person and you're really showing your passion for medicine: reflect on your own personal experiences. Not just things that you've seen, but reflect on why it's important for patient care and why this experience were important for you. Particularly if you've heard an emotional story that really moved you, share those experiences with your interviewer, because that's the things that make you stand out and the things that make you unique. So that was 8 common mistakes that you can make in your interviews and the best ways to avoid them. So just to recap, be sincere, be reflective and be calm in your interviews, and link all your answers back to the patient. Those are the fundamentals to help you smash your interview. If you did like the video, be sure to like, subscribe and drop us a comment if you have any questions at all. Be sure to check out our other videos as well, where we'll be going over different interview stations and how you can structure your answer and bring in your own personal experiences as well. Thank you all for watching. Bye!